Hi, and welcome to another episode of Healthy Living Resources. Today we'll be talking about sustainability in your family, so stay tuned. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Healthy Living Resources. I'm Amy Meehan, the Healthy People Program Specialist with Family and Consumer Sciences and OSU Extension. And today we will be talking about sustainability in your family. And I am joined by a co-host, Stacey Baker. So I will pass it over to Stacey to introduce herself and then our guest. Thanks so much for being here, Stacey.
Great, thanks, Amy. Yes, I'm Stacey Baker, and I am a program specialist with OSU Extension. And what I do is I support educators, our OSU Extension educators, all throughout the state of Ohio with all of their healthy relationship-based programming. Those programs include aging, early childhood education, parenting, mindful wellness, mental wellness, and youth life skills and leadership. So we hear a lot of phrases about going green, living eco-friendly, living a sustainable life. But what do these phrases mean? We have with us today two OSU Extension professionals that are going to go into this topic and share more about it. We have Dan Remley and Alisha Barton. So they're now going to introduce themselves.
Okay, thank you, Stacey. Thank you, Amy. My name is Alisha Barton. I am a family and consumer science educator in Miami County, just a little bit north of Dayton. And I also lead the sustainability video team. Sustainability is a topic that I'm passionate about. My family and I both try to improve, our actions at home so that we can support our planet. And so I'm excited also today to share this topic with you. And I'm grateful that Dan is here with me today, because not only am I passionate about it, but Dan's passion far surpasses mine. So I'm grateful for his expertise and passion today. Dan's going to get us started, so he'll introduce himself, and while I pull up the PowerPoint, and we'll get started.
Okay, thanks, Alisha. My name is Dan Remley, and I'm an associate professor and field specialist in food, nutrition, and wellness. And I like to think of my work in sustainability as a component of wellness. There's a dimension of wellness called environmental wellness, and so this fits into that nicely. I've become more interested in sustainability over the years because I like to go backpacking and hiking and that type of thing. And recently I've seen just more and more trash and plastic on the roads, on the hiking trails, and it's just really discouraging. I'm also more aware of my own behaviors too. So I'm a person that lives with type 1 diabetes that I share on a regular basis when I give presentations, but I use a lot of plastics personally with medical devices that I use. And so I'm becoming more aware and more conscious about my own behaviors and trying to balance things. And so it is becoming more and more, I'm becoming more and more passionate about sustainability and helping others become more sustainable as well. So Amy and Stacey, what does sustainability mean to you when you think about sustainability real quick?
I would say sustainability means how we use the resources that we have within our planet and our environments and use them in a way that doesn't deplete those resources, but to be sustainable and be able to reuse the things that we have available to us.
Absolutely. I completely agree, Stacey. And I particularly like to think about this topic when it comes to waste, and specifically food waste. And so how to make sure that we're reducing the amount of waste that we put out in the environment, how to get creative to avoid that waste and to make it not only a good deed, but also fun and still potentially healthy and exciting to do within your family. So I'm excited to hear more from you, Dan and Alisha. Thanks so much again for being here.
Yeah, those are great definitions of sustainability. They certainly fit into the overall definition of sustainability. But sustainability is more than just protecting the soil and the air and the water. It gets into other dimensions as well. We'll see on the next slide here. It kind of gets into not only environmental, but it also gets into economic and social issues too. So for example, if your community runs out of water, it's definitely going to impact the economy of your community, but it'll also impact those institutions within the community, like schools and recreational opportunities. And so the idea is that all these things are interrelated. And if you have, if you don't have water, for example, you're going to wind up with a ghost town. And so it's important that we protect these economies and the environment and these social institutions so that, for example, our children and our grandchildren will have the same economic opportunities that we had growing up as well. There's three major issues that our sustainability team is addressing through the development of our creative works. And the one is, you probably have all heard about, is climate change. There is a new report out, it's from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And it shows that if business goes as usual in the world, and we keep emitting greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and methane, at 2050, we're probably going to be about 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is about 3 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than in pre-industrial times. And so what this really means is that there will be areas in our country, areas in the world that are going to become uninhabitable and habitable. And so we're going to see a lot more drastic storms, more extreme flooding events, more extreme droughts. We're already seeing this out west. We're seeing this down south. We've had massive hurricanes come through. These types of events will become more frequent. And so this will affect everybody's standard of living and quality of life. And we're kind of at the point where it's an emergency. There are certain events too, certain tipping points that we could reach, such as if the permafrost melts in Siberia, that will even exacerbate the problem too. And so scientists are very, very concerned about this issue. What can we do as individuals? Not a whole lot, but collectively individuals can make a difference, but individuals, as we see, can make a larger difference on the politics and policies, which can have a bigger impact on climate change. Bottom line is that we need to reduce emissions. Next slide, please. Plastic pollution is very much related to climate change. In fact, there's a new research study out now that shows that emissions from the production of plastic are going to be greater than emissions from the coal industry. And so we really need to cut back on our plastics. Plastics are ubiquitous in our lives. As a type 1 diabetic, I use plastics every day for my diabetes. But if you look at your desk, I challenge each of you to find something that's not made out of plastic. Plastic is everywhere, it's ubiquitous. And we really, as consumers, we need to cut back on the amount of plastics, not because we're polluting our landfills and our hiking trails and making our communities less scenic and aesthetic. It's getting into our food supply, it's getting into the air we breathe. So a lot of times plastic winds up in the rivers and streams, which winds up in the ocean. The plastics break down to microplastics. Fish consume the microplastic, eventually gets into our food supply. We consume about 5 grams of plastic every week. So we don't really know what the health effects are quite yet, but that's a little bit concerning to me.
Kind of gross to think about as well.
Next slide.
So I was just going to cover a little bit of how we can reduce some of this plastic pollution here, Dan. That would include thinking about the food that you're buying. And sometimes there's unnecessary plastic packaging on the food that we buy, such as fruit. Fruit is already packaged in its skin and things like that. So just looking when we're at the grocery store and we're buying things, can we choose an option that has less packaging to save on some of that plastic? Also, using reusable storage bins. We're going to share a video in a few minutes that talks about reusable storage containers and how important they can be in helping preserve our food. But, could we use a glass one instead of a plastic one? Something that we do at our house is we've started to reuse some of those glass jars, that maybe your sauces and things like that come in, they can be reused for food as well. Avoid using disposable bags. That's something that's really easy. I brought with me today a reusable produce bag that I have purchased. And my goal in 2020 was to not use any of the grocery store bags, the produce or the Kroger bags. And then COVID, you remember COVID, we had those rules during COVID that you could not bring your own bags into the grocery store. So COVID kind of messed up my New Year's resolution, which messed up a lot of things. So mentioning my New Year's resolution as being lost to COVID is kind of, you know, funny. It's so many more important things were lost, right? But anyway, I purchased these mesh bags. They're really great. They hold a lot of fruit. I can wash them when they get dirty. They close up super easy. And it's just one way that you can reduce your plastic use at the grocery store. But even if you aren't purchasing something like this, even just reusing those plastic produce bags would be a way to reduce plastic. I mean, if you're just putting something like a cucumber in them, it's really not dirty when you get home and you take that cucumber out, and it could be something that you use several times before you recycled it. Also,
it's hard to remember those bags. I'm just trying to keep some in my car so I don't forget them.
Well, that's part of the tip, right? Is if once you have these things, is you have to put them somewhere where you're going to use them. For me, they're hanging in the garage as I leave my house, so that they're right there, kind of reminding me to grab them. But yeah, leaving them in your car can be a good idea. Maybe just, putting on your grocery list, don't forget the bags or something, because you're right, remembering to grab them sometimes can be part of the hurdle. But also our food wraps in our kitchen, plastic wrap tends to be a popular option. There are a lot of options for reusable food wraps. There's those beeswax food wraps. There's, they make such nice little options now that are reusable to reduce the plastic when you're covering your food. And then even just, grabbing your reusable straw with taking it with you. I was really impressed when my daughter was a senior. They gave a little gift to all of the seniors, and the gift that the school chose to give them that year was a straw that folded up and was about the size of an AirPod case and hooked on a keychain. So they have these little fold up straws with them wherever they go. So it's always handy and accessible for her. Doing the same thing with a fork and a spoon and a knife and a napkin, just thinking about the things that you're regularly throwing away that are made out of plastic and replacing those with options that you can use over and over can be helpful. Did you have anything to add there, Dan?
Nope, I think you covered a lot there. A lot to think about. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, this is more about the microplastics, and 5 grams of plastic a week, that's equivalent to a credit card's worth of plastics that we consume. So next slide. So we waste about 40% of the food that we produce is wasted. This is really concerning because about 1 out of 5 people is categorized as food insecure. And also this wasted food winds up in the landfill, which contributes to methane, which contributes to the global warming and greenhouse gases. So we'll talk more about this. Next slide.
So this is where we were going to show the video that Amy made. And I really like this one. They're short. They just have really great usable tips that you can apply to your everyday life. So this one specifically is looking at food waste.
Sustainability in the kitchen, waste-free food storage. The NRDC estimates that Americans are throwing away around 40% of their food annually, estimated to cost almost $162 billion. Proper food storage is a great place to start to help eliminate food waste within your household. Knowing safe storage practices for the freezer, fridge, and pantry are key. Check out how to safely store your food for best quality by using these resources below. Not only will this cut down on food waste in your home, but you can store your food in sustainable ways as well, like using reusable containers. In addition to glass and plastic containers, beeswax wrap and silicone zip top bags are great sustainable options to use to store your food. Keeping simple, sustainable food storage practices in mind can help save you money and save the planet from excess food waste, which can produce harmful greenhouse gases.
These videos are all found on YouTube, and we'll provide a link for these at the end because they really are, like I said, just great, quick little tips on how you can apply some sustainability practices into your everyday life. But I love that Amy starts with food storage, because properly storing your food and your leftovers is one of the best ways to reduce food waste. If you're having to throw food away because it's expired, or maybe it dried out and so it's not something you want to eat anymore, or it molded quicker or spoiled faster than you were hoping, that just storing your food properly is a great place to start with reducing food waste in your home.
Yeah, this slide kind of gets at the idea is collectively we as individuals can make a big difference. And so if everybody started refusing plastic bags at the grocery store, that would have an impact on the environment. But to have a greater impact, we need to change laws. For example, we need to change the way policy systems and environments, how they create waste and food waste and that type of thing. These are things we might not be able to change as individuals, but we can vote for politicians that support climate friendly, laws and that type of thing too. And we can advocate for programs such as recycling in our communities as well. So we can be those advocates for change.
So I'm going to share 4 tips with you today. This is, Dan pointed out that we really can start with ourselves. We hope it can, impact the organizations and the places we work for as we make these small changes, but really we want to start with ourselves. And so that's our focus today, is to encourage you to make some changes for yourself. So we're going to start with, we're going to cover 4 principles that are probably familiar to you: reduce, recycle, reuse, and refuse. And so the first one is reduce. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, so this just gets into the idea that we can reduce the amount of waste that we produce. We can reduce the amount that we consume. So for example, I've started shaving using just a bar of soap. So I'm not purchasing the shaving cream that comes in the container and I have to throw away the container. It's just one little thing that I'm trying to do to cut back on the amount of waste that I produce.
Yeah, something else you can do. We're going to share a tip sheet at the end. Have you started tracking how much your family eats out and kind of tracking those takeout containers like it suggests? It can be kind of shocking, right? The amount of plastic and things that we're throwing away when we eat out. So the point there is to create an awareness of, what is your family using that you're looking to even reduce.
And food waste, we got into food waste, but by starting a compost bin, you can really reduce the amount of food waste that goes into a landfill by throwing away food, compost it, put it in your garden. Yeah, that's another example.
Cool. Yeah, we were even talking this morning as an office, there was a leftover half can of pumpkin from a program that we had done, and nobody really had a use for it. And somebody suggested we could feed it to if somebody has dogs, feed it to your dogs, which, is still, it's not wasting that food. It's going to a usable place. So composting or feeding it to animals, if it's appropriate, is another way to just reduce what you're throwing away.
And I have backyard chickens now, so I just gave them our old pumpkin from Halloween, so they like that quite a bit.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so the next principle is recycle. For recycle, I would encourage you to look at the guidelines for your local area. They can be a little bit confusing sometimes as far as what is allowed to recycle in your area and how they want that product to be handled so that they can recycle it. Does it need to be rinsed and how does it need to be prepared before you throw it in your recycle bin? So that could be a really great, we're talking today about sustainable families. Something you definitely want to do is to get your kids involved. And, and oftentimes I feel like my kids have a better understanding of why we should be doing these things than I do. And so involve your kids, encourage them, look up what can we recycle and how should we prepare those things before we drop them in our recycling bin. And then making sure that you have a way in your home that is, you can recycle in an easy way. For example, our recycling bin is on the side of our house, which is not a problem in the summer, the spring and the fall. But when it starts to snow, I notice people grumble about having to take the recycling out. So we move something to the garage so that we're still able to drop those things in a bin and recycle, and that we're not, dropping them in the trash just because we don't want to get our feet cold and go in the snow. Also, you can make it fun. We can make fun things out of recycled products. Recycled paper. I went to an activity one time where we put paper together and made homemade recycled paper, and it was really fun. And then it was beautiful paper to write a letter or make a card with. So you could do something like that, as well as, recycling items for gift wrap and cards and other things in your home can be a really fun way to get your family involved in recycling. Do you have any tips on recycling, Dan, before we move on to the next one?
I just want to point out that most of what we try to recycle, unfortunately, isn't recycled. About 10% of the items that we put in our recycling bin is actually recycled. And a lot of our third world countries that would accept our recycled products are no longer accepting the products. So it's better to try to reduce and reuse and repurpose rather than recycle. But recycle is still better than throwing something away. and trying to recycle it.
So Dan, I have a question. So what would help families better understand what is recyclable?
Yeah,
What kind of system can a family set up, for example? And
I think you do have to do
that
research
information.
because a lot of things we try to recycle really aren't recycled. So there's certain plastics. You can go online and just do your own research. You can check with your municipalities, and usually on the recycle bin, they'll tell you what you can and can't recycle. But that's a really good question.
I know for our family, when we first began to recycle years ago, we did a chart. We put it up in the kitchen close to the recycle bin of all the different things that you can and can't, recycle, so to help everyone learn and get on the same page.
Yeah.
And then our local recycling, rules and regulations switched, and they changed as to what they were accepting. So
Right.
I get on regularly just to make sure what they're accepting now. And so sometimes I know our family, we've had to tweak that in our area too.
Well, oftentimes that comes to, if there's a change, sometimes it will send a notification with your, our recycling goes out with our trash. I believe that's the case in most areas. Recently sent me a little, this has changed, this is what it looks like now. So maybe pay attention to your bill when it comes to, we'll help you get that information. But yeah, going to your local website for your waste management, whoever that is,
Yeah.
you should be able to find all that information pretty easily. And you're going to tell us a little bit about reuse and repurpose today, which can actually be a really fun piece of this whole process. It can be really fun to find ways to repurpose and reuse things and give them a new life.
Yeah, you have to be kind of creative, but we throw away so much material that can be repurposed or reused. For example, think about a milk jug. Rather than throw it away, make it into a bird feeder. Some people have used old pillowcases and they've made it into like wrapping paper for presents and things like that. I've started to use like yogurt containers and sour cream containers and things like that for Tupperware. So rather than going out and buy new Tupperware, just kind of repurposing some of those food packages can be another way to repurpose or reuse something rather than throw them away.
All right, thank you. Yeah, it can be kind of fun, and I think you can repurpose an item for a gift. People have certainly, said, I no longer use this item. Would you like it? And if it's something that I want or need, I'm usually pretty excited to accept it. I don't mind it.
It used to become a joke to do that, to upcycle a gift, but
right.
But actually
it's becoming more and more acceptable, which is awesome,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay. So the last one we wanted to cover today is refuse. So just, this is just what it sounds like. I'm saying no to some things. I'm saying no at the drive-through when they offer me a straw. I'm saying no when they offer me a plastic fork, just refusing those items so that they're being used less. I've even noticed that probably because people are saying no, some places are not even offering straws anymore, or they're only offering paper straws. You have to ask for a straw now if you want one. So that probably is because of consumer efforts of saying no and refusing those straws. Refusing the grocery bag and bringing your own. And then something else we can do that we took this challenge on again in 2020, which is really kind of like our big push for sustainability. And then for 2021, we have been trying to add some new things and keep up our good plans from 2020. But we made sure that every lunch that leaves our home every day is completely waste-free. Nothing goes in the trash can, which means more dishes at the end of the day, but still we are supporting our planet with completely waste-free lunches. So, you think if you have several members of your family, everybody's eating lunch every day. If that's 5 forks, if you have 5 people in your family times 5, that's 25 forks you have going in the trash every week. So just even that change can be pretty significant. And again, a really great way to involve your entire family, which I just want to speak a little bit more about that after I ask Dan, did you have any tips for refusing? I apologize.
Nope, I think we covered them all.
Okay.
A lot,
so
anyway.
I'm sorry.
Or a lot. We talked about a lot of tips.
I want to just point out again, we want to make sure that we're involving our families. That's the point today. However your family looks, we're being broad in our definition of family today. It can just be you and a partner, a parent and children, any situation. We're broad in our definition of family today, but you definitely want to start with small changes. It's hard to make these things all at once, and you want them to last. So last year, I mentioned a couple of times already that we made a big push for sustainability in our house. Every month we incorporated something new, and I let my kids kind of take the lead on this and deciding this. And I really encourage them to look about or to look at what are we dropping in the trash? Because if we're dropping something in the trash, we really want to try and reduce that. So just these are some of the ideas that they came up with. I'm blessed with 4 daughters, and we're noticing that when they're throwing away makeup pads every day because they're washing their faces and they're throwing away makeup pads. So they came to me and they said, we found a sustainable option for this. So we bought these little reusable makeup pads that you can use, and then you stick them all in here and wash them. And these have been how we have reduced some of that trash in our home. One month we happened to notice, we're throwing away a lot of cleaning products. And so I started making my own cleaning products. This is a glass jar, I can reuse it. This happens to be glass cleaner, which is just vinegar and water. And I did put a couple drops of essential oils in here so that my house doesn't always smell like a pickle factory. But you can clean things that are in your home. And so I've reused this jar now. I made my own little homemade label for it. So this jar can be used and used and used. And lucky for me, my kids are a little bit older so that I can have a glass jar. If your kids were younger, you could maybe just look at reusing a plastic jar and making some of your own cleaning products in those jars, or just buying refills. A lot of cleaning products now are making refills so that you use the plastic jar over and over. But you want these changes to last. So maybe it's a new habit every month. Maybe it's one for the whole year, but you focus on how can I make this change last, and encourage your family and your guests that come to your house, get them involved. My dad was really, when he came to visit us, he was really confused as to why we no longer have paper towels. And so I told him why, and he still was just kind of like, whatever, I don't understand. I'm going to the store to buy you paper towels. But then my kids explained why. And he seemed to be a little bit more supportive that we didn't have paper towels for his very short visit. He got over it. But, take the time to explain the why to people. It will be new, and then be patient as they also, try to understand and grasp that why. Again, look at what you're tossing in the trash can, and just every now and then kind of ponder, what can I do to replace this? What can I replace this item that's hitting my trash can with? Can I replace these dryer sheets with a dryer ball? Can I replace this cleaning product with a reusable bottle? And, think about your daily tasks. These can be, there's things we can do every day to be more sustainable. Running our dishwashers when they're full, turning off our teeth turning off our water. I don't know how you turn off your teeth. I'm sorry. Turning off the water while we're brushing our teeth, shortening our showers by even 1 minute. A big one at our house is closing the door when you go in and out. So you're keeping the AC in and the heat in. I'm not heating the neighborhood. I'm not cooling the neighborhood. Closing those doors as you go in and out of your home and things like that. Keeping the refrigerator closed while you're cooking. Those are just little small habits that we can do every day that are part of our daily tasks that will make a difference.
Yeah, getting those teenagers to take shorter showers is something that we're working on in the Remley household.
It's not always the easiest task, right? But it is.
They're very concerned about the environment and probably more aware than a lot of adults. So, but still, it's a challenge on some things and a little easier on other things. But
so
thank you guys so much for sharing all these great tips. We are just about out of time, so. I really appreciate you putting up the 3D home tour, because I was going to recommend that if anybody's interested in learning more, there are definitely different ways that you can interact with the materials that we have, the videos on YouTube. We encourage you to go check out our blogs, Live Healthy, Live Well, Live Smart Ohio, have great resources. And as always, please never hesitate to reach out to your local extension office. We have lots of educators around the state always ready and willing to help. So thank you so much for joining us, Dan and Alisha, and thank you so much, viewers, for watching with us. We'll see you next time.